Hey Lashins, how's it going? So today I would like to talk about whether or not I like homeschooling. Okay, so before we get into this, I'm going to explain a little bit about homeschooling and about all the different types because there is many, and yeah, just give a little bit of background so this is all easier to understand. So yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of different types of homeschooling. It ranges anywhere from what's called school at home, which is essentially school at home, as the name suggests. You're just doing the same amount of work you would be doing at school, but you're just doing it at home. And your mom or dad is your teacher for all your subjects, and you generally have textbooks and stuff like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum is unschooling, which may sound a little bit scary, but that means you have no guided system. Your parents don't do anything for you. You're all self-guided. You're self-taught. You do everything on your own. You're allowed to do whatever you want, whenever you want, and it's really, really loose. So I fall somewhere pretty close to unschooling. So I'm very self-guided. I'm not full on unschooler because I'm like not allowed to have unlimited game time or watch uneducational movies on the weekdays or anything like that. So I'm not full on schooler, but I'm pretty close because I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, as long as it's school. So yeah. So that might sound pretty crazy. Unschooling, I think it relies mostly on the fact that kids are curious naturally and they learn on their own. And I mean, it seems to work for me. I've been doing it for most of my life, so I'm gonna say it works. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the pros and cons of homeschooling, in my opinion. Okay, so first, it is extremely flexible. I mean, this is probably the most obvious one because, I mean, if you just look at our lifestyle, it's pretty easy to see that it's really, really flexible because we travel around the world literally all year round. It allows for you to do a lot of stuff, and it's a lot more free form and stuff like that. So it's flexible. The second pro is I get to learn about whatever I want to learn about, whenever I want to learn about it. So I think this is my favorite point of homeschooling is it allows you to be self-taught, at least the type of homeschooling we do. So for instance, I'm studying Japanese right now, and I study a lot of Japanese to the tune of like 3 hours a day, which seems excessive. Excessive? Yes, excessive. Homeschooling here. And but I'm going to Japan this summer, so I see it fit. But yeah, it allows me to study what I want to study. So I'm also studying a lot of film every day. So I'm studying how to work cameras and how to do cinematography and how to edit and how to direct and how to write and so on and so forth. So I really like this part. I think that might be my favorite part of homeschooling. Next one, it's good for my learning style. So I'm not saying homeschooling is good for everybody, but in my case, it's really good for my learning style. Because my learning style is very sporadic and kind of random, and I get obsessed with things, and that's when I learn the most about them, and then I kind of take it back a little bit and then learn about other things. Because like, I recently, as an example, have been learning about 3D modeling, so I now, over the past month, have become proficient in 3D modeling programs, Blender being the most prominent. So yeah, I just go through stages of obsessions, and that's how I learn. So it works great for me in that case. Yeah. Sorry for the background noise. Eve is loud. Another one is it makes learning fun. I really enjoy learning now because of homeschooling. So like, I would rather do school than not do school. I really like school. I'm doing school during the summer by choice because I wouldn't have to do school if I didn't want to because of the way unschooling works. But because it's unschooling, I really, really enjoy it. So I will continue doing school over the summer, and I really like it. It makes learning fun. And then a sub point to this is it teaches you how to learn rather than how to memorize, because I think those are two separate things. This is a little bit controversial, but there's a distinction between the two, because memorizing, at least in the case of normal school tests, you're memorizing a couple things that you will be tested on a week later or maybe a couple months later, and then it kind of falls out of your memory because you're not really using it in any way. I've mostly learned about this while I've been learning Japanese, like learning about strategies for learning Japanese, because you don't want to memorize Japanese. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to learn how to recall Japanese. And I think unschooling does a good job of this on all subjects. Because it makes it fun. It's not just a little thing you memorize in your brain that you forget a year later. Because if you think about it, most adults I know don't remember much of what they learned in school. And unschooling is not like this. It does the opposite. So yeah. That was one of the more controversial points in here. So if you comment disagreeing with it, please be nice. It teaches you how to learn. That's another point. It's kind of pretty similar to the one I just said before, but because it makes learning fun, your brain wants to learn more and more. So, for instance, when I went to 6th and 7th grade for public school, because I went because we were just moving and just adopting, and it was kind of difficult. So I went to public school for those 2 years, and when I was in public school, I did great. On most of my tests, I got above 90%. I was B plus most of the year. It allowed me to absorb information better than my peers in my class because I enjoyed doing it. So like for tests, for instance, I didn't have to study very much, if at all. And I still got a really, really good grade compared to a lot of other people because unschooling had taught me to absorb that information right when I learned it, and I didn't have to hammer it into my brain using memorization. So that's another point. Okay, last pro at least. It's less stressful than school. I think this is especially apparent this time of year because of school finals. Because from all my friends taking those, they seem pretty stressed right now, and it seems not the most enjoyable thing in the world. So in homeschooling, you don't have to worry about that. It's because it's, at least in my case, because it's all self-guided, it's not stressful, so I'm not stressed I need to do this thing right now kind of thing, which might seem like a bad thing because a lot of people procrastinate, but I think unschooling, what it does is it makes you not want to procrastinate, because procrastinating has come out of school, I think, at least. It's because we kind of have to when we're studying. Like, if you're studying for a test, you're going to want to study as close to the test as possible, because you're going to remember everything. So I think procrastinating has come out of public school because of that. And another sub point to this is you don't have to deal with like the school pecking order. So like popularity, you don't have to worry about that. I mean, unless you have some weird dynamic in your family, you don't have to worry about that. So yeah. Okay, now onto the cons. There's not as many as the pros. Maybe you can come up with more in the comments, I don't know, but we'll just jump right in. The first one, and definitely the most obvious, is it's more difficult to socialize. I think this is the point that most people bring up when they're arguing about homeschooling, or at least talking about it, because it is definitely more difficult to socialize when you're homeschooled because you're not around your peers all the time. But I think most people, when they do this, they forget that there's other ways of socializing other than school. For me, I do clubs, I do churches. I go to church. I am in public spaces quite a bit. I meet people. It's definitely more difficult, but it's not impossible. But I mean, in the real world, I think that's a good skill to have, to know how to make friends without having that. Because when you're out of college or high school, if you're not going to college, then you're not going to have that. You're not going to be around your peers all the time. So it makes sense that you should learn how to do that early on. Second point, you probably won't have the same amount of resources your school has or a school has, because I mean, you're not a giant business that's funded by the government, obviously. So foreign exchange programs are going to be more difficult. it's going to be more difficult to do sports. It's going to be more difficult to in some states do driver's ed. And I think that is definitely a con because I wanted to do some of those things and it's difficult. It depends on your state because some states are less strict about it because I know for North Carolina, if you wanted to take driver's ed, you had to be enrolled in school, or at least if you wanted to take the normal fast driver's ed that didn't take like 3 years, and then also for sports you had to be enrolled in school. But I know some states, they will allow you to do all those things without actually being enrolled. So like back when I lived in Washington, I knew people that were homeschooled that would come to the school and do like after school sports or clubs or whatever. So yeah, it depends. But most of the time you probably won't have the same amount of resources. I couldn't think of any other cons. I mean, comment if you want to bring something up that I missed. I don't know. I really, from my list, you can probably tell that I really like homeschooling. It allows me to do this because it's Friday today and I would be in school, at least most Fridays because it's almost summer. But yeah, I really like homeschooling. And then I think another one of the arguments people make, which is kind of a misconception, is that you can't go to college if you're homeschooled. And this is not true at all. If anything, it's kind of the other way around because a lot of schools are starting to realize that when you're homeschooled, you're generally educated very well. Sometimes better than public school. I don't know. It depends on your opinions of that. I think so. So like for instance, take MIT, which is a really good school. What they have you do is they have you send in a portfolio of everything you've been doing over the past year or so, and they judge you based on that, and then you write your normal resume and stuff like that. And I've heard they are actually more likely to accept you if you're homeschooled than you are public schooled because I think they know that it's a good idea. And then I believe most schools, they just have you take a test to see if you're good enough, and then you submit your resume. So I don't know of any schools that actually don't let you come if you're homeschooled. So like, for instance, if you take a look at some universities in Japan where homeschooling is virtually non-existent, they just have you take a test and you're pretty likely to get in. Because that would seem like the most likely place to not let homeschoolers in because it's such a foreign idea there. But it's not a problem most of the time. I mean, you might not be used to how strict the environment is, but I think when you're a homeschooler, you can acclimate to that quickly. And then also, when you're in college, you're learning about what you want to learn about. Because college isn't cover all, you have to do it. It's you get to choose what you're learning about. So I think homeschoolers will be used to this in that case. But yeah. So that's my spiel on homeschooling. I really like it. Everybody I know that does it really likes it. If you have any opinions about it, comments. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. If you want to homeschool, get your parents to like read some books about it. I don't know. There's a lot of books about homeschooling, and I've heard they're very good. I haven't read them. My mom has. But yeah, just get them to like read some books about homeschooling. But yeah. Sorry I didn't come out with a video last week. I totally spaced out. Like, I actually completely forgot that I was going to make a video. So like, I remembered on Monday that I make videos every week. So sorry about that. But yeah. Okay, so you might notice I am in a different room right now. We're actually staying in an Airbnb in Utah, up in like a valley, like a really small valley in a canyon. I can actually just show that right now. But either way, it's really pretty and really cool. It's a big house. I have my own room, which is nice. But yeah, it's been fun. We're right now in Utah just because we're going to my uncle's wedding. So yeah, and then we're after this we're heading up to New York. We're gonna be here for I believe another week and a half after this. So yeah, there's gonna be another video here, but yeah, we'll see. Either way, adios amigos.